He told me that I should not invite my mother because the campus was really integrated just for students, not for other blacks.
There is no real sentiment in Georgia for integrating the classrooms of her schools and her colleges.
By 1960, the lines of opposition are hardening as an emboldened black community seeks access to equality, while whites on the other side embrace massive resistance to desegregation. This time, the battle is over the undergraduate admission of Charlene Hunter and Hamilton Holmes.
Of course, they were two very brilliant people, and they were picked out as special people to go to the university and to start the integration of the university. And frankly, I was afraid of what might happen.
What happened was a visceral response from ardent segregationists, young and old.
How do you feel about Negroes attending school here at the university?
No, people have talked about it around campus, and I don't believe the university people would like it themselves, me myself either.
Mm-hmm. Are you a Georgia girl?
No, I'm from Fort Lauderdale, Florida myself, and we don't associate with colored people down there much either.
The university marshaled every argument it could, including a lack of housing space and rejecting Holmes and Hunter. Donald Hollowell, who was the senior attorney on the case, was Mr. Civil Rights Lawyer in Atlanta. It was Hollowell who masterminded the strategy challenging state-sanctioned segregation, the now familiar argument used by the university system. But this time, the university was trapped in one of its own lies. The crucial lie was discovered by the two junior members of the Hunter Holmes legal team, Horace Ward and Vernon Jordan.
I was lucky enough to be the one to find the record of a woman who lived in Marietta, Georgia, Cobb County, who was a transfer student who had been admitted to school subsequent to Charlene's application. And she was being denied on the basis that a junior could not transfer.
This evidence turned the tide. On January 6, 1961, the world changed, in part because two federal judges honored their judicial responsibility to enforce the constitutional rights of black citizens. Hunter and Holmes were now officially admitted, but that meant attending classes on an unfriendly campus. They did not walk alone. The reverberation of these events extended far beyond Athens and into the life of another black Georgian enrolled at the University of Michigan.
In January, I believe it was January the 11th, there was an article in the paper showing Charlene and Hamilton having been taken out of the school or suspended, whatever, for their safety, so it said. And she was clutching a Madonna, and he was looking so despondent. I said, somebody needs to go into the school and help these young people because they shouldn't be alone.
That somebody was Mary Frances Early, a Clark College graduate who transferred from Michigan to the University of Georgia. Not surprisingly, she would not be admitted without being subjected to an interrogation.
They asked questions that I doubt seriously that they would have asked everybody else. Things like, have you ever been to a house of prostitution, or have you ever been a prostitute? And I simply said, no, I'm an educator, because at the time I was a teacher. I was a young teacher, and I felt that there was no need to ask questions like that because you don't ask that of professionals.
Early encountered the extremes to which the university and the Board of Regents would resort to maintain its lily-white status. Yet she persevered.
The big confrontation had taken place with the admission of Hamilton and Charlene. And her admission to the graduate school was almost uneventful in a sense, although after she got there, there were incidents. She would call me, and of course, she originally was accepted by Georgia State, and she called me and decided, she wanted to go to the University of Georgia, where there's a strong music department, and things went well for her. And she really was the first black to graduate from the University of Georgia.
But she's a pioneer too. She just she was not involved in the lawsuit, and therefore did not share in the celebrity. That makes her no less a celebrity in my judgment.
In addition to enrolling in school, Early found herself enrolled in a pressure cooker.
I lived at Center Myers, which is in the same room where Char was housed. And when I saw that room, I was horrified because it was right on the street. There were windows that were right on the street, and I could see, and I think some of those windows were perhaps broken during the riot, and I could see why Charlene must have been terrified, because that was not a very safe place to put her. But I think the reason was that they wanted to isolate her from the rest of the girls. And so I was in that same room and isolated.
Once enrolled, Early, Holmes, and Hunter learned that getting an education would become a daily battle.
I was going to the library one evening, and it was in the evening, and it was dark, and it was a beautiful night. And these guys were spread across the steps at the library, and as I approached, one of them said, "I smell a dog," and the other one said, "No, that's not a dog, that's a nigger." And they just sort of just banded there, and I just went like a bulldog. I didn't care who I hit, I was just going through. I was going to the library to study, and there were some guys across the street, and they started throwing little pebbles. They weren't big rocks, they were little pebbles, and a couple of them hit me. So I picked up one that was rather much larger, and I threw it back. I didn't throw to hit them, but I said, "I'm not that nonviolent."
The tenor of the times was so racially charged that on campus and off, everybody was living right on the edge. Jordan saw the widespread support for the young people.
Because at that time there was this, in my judgment, unified partnership within the black community about this particular case and this particular aspect of the civil rights movement.
There are people who have varying opinions about how fast the pace should be, but in terms of desegregation, those of us who were, so to speak, on the front line felt that you needed to move as fast and as far as you could, because you won't get there. When I graduated, there were 84 people who came from Atlanta. I guess that must be the first time they'd had a goodly number of blacks at a graduation. I didn't ask this time. I just invited them to come, my friends, my family, church members, and they had a motorcade coming down from Atlanta. It was a very happy day, but like any other student, I was very happy to be able to see the end of that and to be able to say that I was going to finally get my master's degree. That, after all, was a main goal. The fact that I chose to do it at the University of Georgia because of the cause and because it needed to have been done just made it that much better.